Hey guys, Ford here, and in today's video I wanted to talk about a news article that I came across the other day in which Antifa terrorized civilians outside of the Oregon State Capitol building. The gameplay in the background of today's video is Ghosts of Tsushima, which is an RPG set in late 13th century Japan. I will leave a link to the article that I'm going to be referencing in today's video in the description below. The article is titled Antifa Armed Rioters Descend on Oregon State Capitol in Salem. It is from Fox News. The heavily armed crowd grew to at least 200 people. Now, this crowd didn't just come out of nowhere. So what was happening was there was a right-wing protest, and the article does not specify what the protest was for, but Antifa showed up as part of a counter-protest, which is not uncommon for the other side to do when one side holds a protest. It just usually doesn't grow to 200 armed rioters. So, the police received reports that the vehicles driving on the road outside of the Oregon State Capitol building while Antifa was there had rocks thrown at the windshield of their cars, as well as balloons filled with paint. If that wasn't enough, they also had green laser pointers, shined right into their eyes while they were driving. This caused a lot of really close accidents, and it's extremely dangerous, and the police did not get involved. A very controversial journalist named Andy No, who you may have heard of, was tweeting out videos of this and being very judgmental of the police for not doing anything. Rightly so. The Oregon Police Department did give a statement saying, "Exit the roadway and obey all laws. Failure to do so may result in arrest. Stay on the sidewalks and exit the roadway." It should be noted that once this was all over, there were only 3 arrests total that were made. Now, the Oregon State Police and the Salem Police Department's crowd management teams did remove the protesters from the scene. Or not remove, but drive them away, rather. One man arrested wasn't even affiliated with the protesters. He was simply driving by in his truck when they started to vandalize his truck, and he got really angry. So, rightly so. So he pulled a gun on them, and the police arrested him rather than doing really anything to the protesters. If the police aren't there to protect him at the time, then what choice does he have but to use whatever form of self-defense that he can when people are attacking him with rocks and paint and laser pointers and trying to make his car crash? What they are doing very well could kill him and many other people. He has every right to defend himself, yet you choose to arrest him instead of the people causing the violence. Now, there have been protests in Portland and all of Oregon, really, for well over a year now, whether it be through Antifa or Black Lives Matter, or really any group that turns violent. As Americans, we have the right to peacefully protest. We do not have the right to riot. Yet that is completely ignored by the mainstream media and unfortunately a lot of politicians. And honestly, on both sides of the aisle, mainly on the Democratic Party, but there are some Republicans who are ignoring this violence as well and just brushing it off. Now, let's take a mainstream media source like CNN. Chris Cuomo said protests aren't supposed to be peaceful. Or that's not what he said. He said, who says protests are supposed to be peaceful? Everyone. Well, all reasonable people would say that anyway. There was a right-wing protest that the article doesn't even talk about. Antifa has turned this from being a right-wing protest, like an article that would be written about that, to an article written about them in a negative light. They would rather be seen in a negative light than have the other message be seen at all. Actually, no, that's not what they're thinking, because they don't see themselves in a negative light. They legitimately believe that they are in the right for causing this damage and this harm and putting people's lives in danger. And the problem is politicians love backing these groups. Well, Democratic politicians do anyway. Some of them have denounced the violence, but for the majority they haven't. And let's take the President of the United States, Joe Biden. He wouldn't even say that Antifa was a group of people. He said that it was an idea. That way he didn't have to address them or condemn their actions or anything, because he knows deep down that their actions are wrong, but he can't say that because he needs their support. A program that Kamala Harris supported freed the same rioter twice. This was in Minnesota, so not specifically the instance that I talked about today. This is just the latest instance of these actions being normalized and just being treated as totally okay, as they go unpunished. Now, let's take an example of a politician directly helping these rioters. Even though I just went over one, now that I think about it. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a congresswoman from New York, tweeted out tips on how to riot. She, of course, didn't phrase it like that, but she gave different recommendations on how to cover your face so that you wouldn't get recognized, what to use to cover your hands, especially if you were stealing things because you didn't want to get cut or leave any fingerprints. Not that it would really be looked into anyway, unfortunately. Ugh. Thanks for watching today's video. If you made it to the end, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to help me out and so that you don't miss any future content. If you would like to see me record this gameplay live, feel free to check out my Twitch channel. A link will be in the description below. Again, this game was Ghost of Tsushima. If you haven't played it and you're into RPGs, I would seriously recommend it. Very fun. Anyways, have a good day.